Welcome to the Hand That Feeds HQ's monthly review. A monthly feature that is basically another excuse for me to talk about male seiyuu music and 2D groups. And this month, although initially not exciting at all, has turned into something really cool. Let's dive into it a little bit. Welcome everyone to another episode of Monthly Review. This month was, I should say, pretty weak in comparison with previous months, but there were plenty of interesting surprises in the mix. So let's start to cover those in this episode. First off, let me start with my picks of best of April 2022. So I've reviewed a couple of CDs in the last couple of weeks, although most have yet to be published on the website. At least at the time I recorded this episode, not all reviews that I'm talking about are on the website, so do check those if you're watching the episode way far from the release date. And there were a couple of surprises for me. Let's start with the first one because I was not expecting this turnaround in sound, and it is Anthos with Icon. I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of tropical music, although I do love that summery aesthetic, and I do love that loungy vibe that Anthos had in their songs, even with tropical music in the lead. But this time around, Anthos took an interesting turn and basically revisited their original sound, which is to say, it is an aesthetically pleasing, loungy sound. And that's the sound that I've instantly fell in love with, and it is good to see it come back with Umbilical Lover. That's a weird title. I do love how it progresses, I do love its intro. It was a song that I instantly clicked with, which is something that hadn't happened before, or at least hadn't happened in the last 2 years with their music. I believe the last song that made me react like that was STOP, and even STOP is not really their best song, so it already says something about how the group had been changing their sound in the last couple of years. And even with the addition of Shun Horie in the lineup, the group took some liberties in their sound and adjusted it to not only Shun Horie but also the story. So it was meant to give that weird spin and now stabilize the sound back to something that fans were already in love with, which is basically their aesthetically pleasing sound and visuals. So we have Anthos Icon. I absolutely love this single from start to finish. It is perfect in my books, and it got really perfect marks from me. I would be pretty happy to hear more of this sound and not that much of that tropical sound. I do know that some people love that tropical sound, no problem there, but given how Anthos were basically creating a unique sound and a unique concept within the idol project universe, them going towards a tropical sound was them basically going the generic way and not set themselves apart from all other groups and all other projects. So it is good to see that Anthos are back in their unique sound and unique aesthetics. I don't know if this is going to continue, but so far so good. I thoroughly enjoyed Icon, so do check it out if you can. Then we have, and I believe this is the best release of the month, hands down the best release of the month, it is EROSION's Dancing on the Edge. And why is this the best release of the month and not Takuya Eguchi's EGURand like everyone else was expecting? Because EROSION's Dancing on the Edge may not have the best EROSION song, Dancing on the Edge, but it has the best solo song, or character song, which is Hakusha. It is right there with Determination by Yoru, voiced by Arthur Lounsbury, which is a song that I talked about in the previous episode. So this time around, Erosion brought a groovier sound, a groovier rock sound with some sprinkles of pop in the title track. It is a danceable song that also asks you to headbang, so it is a perfect mix that will please both fans of pop and fans of rock. It's not heavy, so do not worry, it's not heavy. It is a pretty fun song, but it has a pretty weird chorus, so it changes and fluctuates frequently between moods and tempo, so it may not click right away with you. At least it didn't click right away with me, so... But then again, it's me that I'm talking about, it's not you, so it can be pretty different, your reaction to the song. So I must say, in my opinion, it didn't click right away with me. I had to listen to it twice, thrice, to actually feel the chorus and get into the groove. The verses are perfect, no problems there, but the chorus takes some time to get used to. The best part of this single, and that's usually the thing that's made me choose Erosion's Dancing on the Edge over Takuya Eguchi's EGURand as the best CD in the month, is that Hakusha has love metal in here. So love metal is a music genre that is pretty niche. It doesn't have necessarily a place of birth for as a music genre, but it is oftenly found in Finland. I'm keen about having gothic aesthetics with metal in the mix, although a bit watered down, more like alternative rock at times, and romantic songs or romantic lyrics with a tragic twist. It's a little bit like that. It's tragic, it's fatalistic, it's usually love metal. And what you find here in Erosion's, or basically Toxin's Hakusha, Toxin is voiced by Shoya Chiba, in case you don't know, is pretty much that. It is a revival of that sound, and I bloody love it because I grew up listening to love metal. It is dramatic and romantic at the same time. It is romanticism taken to a whole other level. And here, if you listen to the song, you notice how fatalistic that song is, how violent it is, but not necessarily violent because the guitars are really shredding on your ears. Those guitars are indeed shredding, but it is more methodical, it is intentional, it is careful. It's not really anger there, it's more like passion, and making that passion come basically pour down from that person that is actually at the core of the story. In this case, we must say Toxin. But the song is pretty much the thing that will immediately grab your attention. The instrumental is really heavy emotionally, and you can feel that there is something bottled up that is going to be basically set free in the chorus, and that chorus is mind-blowing on the vocal end, and Shoya Chiba made sure to, and I believe this is part a learning he got from Visual Prison. He brought a little bit of a musical style of singing to this performance, because first off, as Toxin he is always performing in a fa baritone tone. He's not a fa baritone singer, he's a tenor, so that's for starters, that's a vocal range that Shoya Chiba doesn't have naturally. He can tap into that, but it can only sound really good as he does as Toxin because he's doing the fa baritone technique, which is common for visual kei singers, and he's actually adding a visual kei twist to his performance, which is once again, I must say, an influence from the work he has done with Visual Prison, but also because he loves visual kei music, so do not attribute solely that to Visual Prison, because he was already a visual kei fan years prior to that. It is interesting to see how dramatic he sounds without sounding over the top, which is a difficult balance to achieve because you end up going more dramatic on the voice to compensate for a not so dramatic instrumental. In this case, the instrumental was pretty much okay in the drama, so Shoya Chiba only needed to add the little springs on top. Actually, he did more than that, but he only needed to add some sprinkles on top and the song would be pretty much perfect. And he went for that performance with a little bit of musical style of singing on top. He had the fa baritone from start to finish, never faltered, which is pretty impressive, and he was doing crescendos in that fa range, which is not easy to sustain and not easy to carry over from one to another, so that's pretty impressive. He also added vibrato in there, and his emotional range was quite impressive. Once again, Shoya Chiba has grown quite a lot as a singer in the last couple of years. Visual Prison served as a good experience for Shoya Chiba to get that experience, to get that confidence, and you're starting to see it in his performances with EROSION, which is pretty awesome. So do check this performance, this is hauntingly beautiful. The words that I just said to you do not make it justice, really. You need to listen to that song to feel how it will shake you to your core emotionally. It is one of those songs that will leave you in a weird place, and in the way it wraps up, it will leave you in a pretty weird place. It is an emotional song, it is really tragic. You will be finding yourself quite emotional when the song wraps up. Takuya Eguchi's EGURand didn't meet the expectations. Takuya Eguchi had massive expectations on top of EGURand after a perfect Egoism. That's one of the best CDs released in 2021 and one that set the bar pretty high for him. I have no doubts that this CD will be selling really well because Takuya Eguchi has a really solid fan base that will make sure that he is ranking pretty high, but those sales do not reflect necessarily the quality of this CD, at least for me. When I say these, of course, I'm not taking away the merit that some songs have, because there are pretty good songs in here, but there's a lack of consistency in the sound that is obvious. Of course, it is an eclectic sound that you find in this CD. The songs, there's pretty much, you could say that for starters it is a pop rock sound that leads this CD. However, there's electronica in here, there is city pop in here, there is actually hard rock, almost metal in here. I should say not metal, but almost punk rock in here. Given the speed, punk rock or speed metal in this CD. So you have a large array of music genres used to create this 7-song mini album. Now, I do find the first part of the CD pretty weak. Aside from Agorism, the intro, the CD doesn't carry over pretty well until it reaches the middle part, and that's when it starts to get pretty interesting. Paperboy is in the middle of the first part of the CD. It winks at his debut mini album in there, but then it's followed by Break of Day, and that song is pretty repetitive. One thing that I found as the weaknesses in this CD is not necessarily that Eguchi is performing badly, it's more that the compositions are weird. Some are intentionally weird, like in Karepa or Curry Paradise. That song is meant not to be taken seriously. It's about Eguchi's love for curry, so you can already guess that this is not a song to take seriously. He's having fun, of course, but the EDM in that song gets full-on obnoxious in the chorus. So that's my take from there. It's really just noise in the chorus. Paperboy arrives as an intermission because then you have Break of Day that is equally bad. So that's weird. So there's some inconsistency in the tone and the quality of the songs in the very first half of the mini album. Of course, I said in my review of Eguism that one thing that was lacking from it was experimentalism and going outside of the box to try to do something new. When you do that I just said, you end up with a CD like this. So you do know that by listening to this CD, Takuya Eguchi is starting to try to see what fits him best as a singer, which is a good thing. It's a good sign. So do not take my review as a criticism, but more like an analysis of what can be Takuya Eguchi's music from now on, because this is a stepping stone. Usually, the sophomore CD is not a good CD for basically any singer. There are some exceptions, but usually the sophomore CD is not the best. So this is just the second CD release for Takuya Eguchi. He's got a long way to go, and I believe he will, of course, overcome this and find his own sound. So Takuya Eguchi is actually doing that part that is common for solo artists, that is to find his voice, to find his sound, and ultimately to find his identity as a solo artist, because there are a couple of quirks that he brings from character songs that are still pretty much present in these songs. Most sound like character songs, not necessarily like songs that he has had his input in. So that's a really small detail in the background that only very few people will notice, but yeah, he's actually performing the songs almost like it is character songs, not necessarily as his songs. You only start to notice that he's actually singing a song as if it is his own and not a character song when you listen to Lonely Darling. But that's a really specific song that wasn't composed by a composer that is used to writing music for anime series or character songs. So that's a really different style of composition that really demanded a different style of performance, and that's how you get a pretty natural performance from Takuya Eguchi. But until then, you have most of the songs being performed in a character songy style. So that isn't really a word, but I just made it up. So let's roll with it. So I do find this CD to be pretty inconsistent. That's a big reason why I didn't give it full marks. It's far from it. In comparison, Eguism was perfect, and I was basically noting that it needed more variety, but if variety means this, then I need a blender sound like in Eguism, because that was pretty good by itself. It didn't need many changes. Now this sound needs many changes. I believe that actually the first and the second mini album are good examples of what Takuya Eguchi can do or not as a performer, what suits him well in his image as a solo artist, and if he actually wants to collaborate with other seiyuu. So you could have that happening in the future, we don't know of course, but that would be pretty awesome. It started with Soma Saito's Lonely Darling, which is a pretty good song, not necessarily, and I was asked this in the last month if I was really excited about this CD and why I was excited about this CD, and I said it was because of Lonely Darling and the fact that Soma Saito was composing and writing this song, because Takuya Eguchi is really an upbeat, bright person, and Soma Saito is quite the opposite, at least as a solo artist. So I was curious to see what Soma Saito could pull off, if he was going to add his own touch to Eguchi's song, or if he was going to create something that would be meant for himself, but he would give a twist to suit Takuya Eguchi's vocals, and that way it would be a dark song with a pretty happy performance. But no, what we got was a really good display of how good Soma Saito is as a composer or a singer-songwriter. Of course, this is not to be talking solely about Soma Saito, because this is Takuya Eguchi's CD, but I'm going to make a brief comment on that because I know people will be asking me that later on. So I believe that Soma Saito showed that he is a really good singer-songwriter. He created a song that is not dark, it's not twisted, and it suits pretty well Takuya Eguchi. I felt like it captured his good spots pretty well, more so than the other songs. This is a song that actually represents him as a person in a laid-back way, with a shy twist, pretty friendly, and there's a warmth in there. Something that most seiyuu that are friends of his usually say, that he's a really warm person and really nice. So the song really encapsulates those feelings, and I felt that as I was listening to it. That's a good sign that the composition was made really well to capture those feelings and put those into sound. The lyrics are pretty simple, I believe, actually pretty simple and at the same time pretty catchy. I wouldn't normally say this is necessarily a song that screams Homicidal, but that's you have a little nod to himself and Saku, because both start the song thanking Takuya Eguchi for the good work in the recording. So you actually listen to both leaving and basically leaving Takuya Eguchi in the studio alone to basically have fun with Lonely Darling. That's a laid-back, mundane song. It is a perfect ending to a CD that should have been more consistent if the tone had been closer to Paperboy or even Soyu Monda, which is a fantastic city pop song, or even Lonely Darling. This CD might have been really one of the best of 2022. As it is a good CD. It is a good indication that Takuya Eguchi is working on showcasing more of his versatility as a singer, because this time around we had rapping, narration, and clean singing. So he's trying to showcase that he's a really good, or at least a versatile singer, and it's starting to show. What needs to be tuned is the sound that has or needs to match the quality that Takuya Eguchi does have on the vocal end, and so far I only saw that happening in EGUism, and still it was really subdued. And really in EGURand there are basically some strikes of genius here and there, but nothing that really highlights really well how good of a singer Takuya Eguchi is. So that left me with, it may be partly my fault because I had really high expectations for this CD, but well, those weren't met necessarily, even with Art Reflect in here. I said in the last episode that Satoru Kuwabara was here, but he wasn't. It was Taishi Kawai, which is also a really awesome composer, but not really Satoru Kuwabara, so that's a really, really different vibe in terms of composers. But Yuki Honda did a massive job in HRC. It is a speed, almost a speed metal meets punk rock song. It is fun as hell. Not many people will like it because it is really aggressive, but it is such an awesome song. I find myself enjoying more the second part of this CD, starting from Soyu Monda, more so than the first part. The first part was really forgettable. And that's a pity, but still, it is a good indication that Takuya Eguchi is trying to find his identity as a singer, and perhaps in the next CD we will have something really awesome to listen to. Not to say that this CD is bad, but in comparison with EGUism, it is weaker. And that's all for my picks of Best of April. And now let's check your picks for Best of April. And this is the very first time that you suggest CDs that I haven't talked about, which is awesome. We have a comment by Naz, welcome back. And the CD that stood out for them the most was Finder by Sir Vanity. This is a digital single that was released pretty much without any announcement or prior announcement to it, so it was pretty awesome to find such a song being released this month. So, to continue, Finder by Sir Vanity is probably the release I enjoyed the most because it feels like such an easy listening song, yet it communicates the message of longing. I particularly like the simple recurring melody that the piano and guitar play. The vocals from Yoshiki and Yuichiro are really clean and they seem very comfortable singing it. It is definitely one of my favorite releases by them so far, which makes me excited for their upcoming album. This is really awesome. I reviewed Finder a couple of days ago, from the day this episode is dropping, and I found myself enjoying that song pretty much. And we're talking about a song that followed up a song in a hardcore style, which is the complete opposite, because Finder, it is basically a ballad, and it is a pretty good one. The thing here is that Sir Vanity doesn't seem to be tied to a music genre. That's something that we can assess right now, although the band has been on and off active, and only this year have they been really focused on creating music consistently. The band is showing that they basically have consistency and the really solid core to create that consistency. And that's the most awesome part in there. The lyrics in the song are, if I recall correctly, by Taisei, which is their VJ, and the composition is once again by Satoru Kuwabara, which is to say it's not going to fail at all. And Finder has a really awesome composition. It is a song about longing. Once again, Sir Vanity are exploring a concept of longing and love, more in the melancholic way. So you have that as a main concept for the digital singles that have been released so far. And Finder, really, I believe this will be the last single to be dropped until the first album is released, right? And it is a single that leaves you wanting more. It is a single made for the rainy season. For interesting as it is for the rainy season, although we're not in the rainy season. And it has really melancholy on top. It is a performance that screams to your heart without being aggressive and without really necessarily screaming to you. I do agree with you, Naz. It is a really awesome song. It has a beautiful melody going on in the background. Once again, Satoru Kuwabara made sure that you have that depth in the instrumental so that the vocals can shine on top. That's really awesome. And I'm also of the same opinion. I'm quite interested and excited about Sir Vanity's Array, and I believe, although we are going to get remixes, do have that into attention. The songs that were released so far may get all or some remixes, which may or may not improve the songs, so we have to wait for that CD to drop to actually know if the songs that were previously released will actually be upgraded or will stand a bit weird in comparison with their original versions. And of course there are going to be new songs there, so I'm pretty excited to see what they created for us to enjoy. But yeah, I do agree with you, Naz. Thank you for your comment. We have a comment from Maki. Maki says, Kashi no Okina's Izayoi Banka. I recommend it to fans of Umehara's voice, especially in this particular unique style, and for fans of musical genre fusions involving traditional Japanese music. I have reported about this song on the website. I have listened to a snippet of it, so I gave myself a bit of a leeway and I got to check the preview, something that I usually don't do. It is really a fusion music genre, and it has rock with traditional Japanese music, with some hints and bits of enka in there. It is the style of song that will demand usually a dramatic performance with a lot of consistency, something that I should say Yuichiro Umehara now is able to tackle. Check that song if you can. Izayoi Banka, it is a song that it captures perfectly that Japanese traditional style in music format and mixes it up with other music genres, namely rock music. So, thank you very much for your comment, Maki. And that's all for your suggestions of, or basically for your comments of best CDs of April. So, now it's time for monthly choice, which is that time in which I recommend you to, 3 CDs to check, sometimes even more when I want to break the rules. And this time around I want to break the rules for a very specific reason. I was not expecting Jin Ogasawara to release 5 digital singles and 3 of those to drop in April. And Jin Ogasawara has been one of those questions for me. He made a solo debut that was pretty much way too early in his career. Not necessarily early because he's already well into his 20s, but really early in terms of his career as a voice actor. He doesn't have much work as a voice actor. His work into the music projects was not as expressive as it is right now. Right now he is a part of more to the music projects than he was when he made his solo debut. So there was some questions there, and I even talked plenty about how it felt like it was a rushed solo debut. And I still stand by those words. However, what I like the most is it's how quick Jin Ogasawara has turned that around. Although Turbo, which was his first CD, was not particularly good, now these sequence, and I'm talking about only 3 digital singles out of the 5 that are scheduled in total to be dropped, so there are still 2 to be dropped. Jin Ogasawara has done a massive work to turn that around and try new things, showcase his versatility. He's a singer that I felt like he lacked a bit of emotional range and a bit of confidence in his delivery, and he has found that. And the 3 songs that were released, Aquarium, Yurei, and Yoga Akeru, are really different from what you can expect from him. Usually you would say he would be performing rock music or punk rock music or even pop punk music like he did in his debut digital single. But here you have loungy R&B, which may sound initially like a weird pivot in his solo career, although it arrives really well, because if you go the R&B route or the loungy route, you are quieting the sound, which leaves plenty of space for the vocals to shine, and you actually need to have some robust, warm and technical vocals on top to perform R&B music. Once again, this is not an easy style of pop music, essentially. And that's a big reason why most pop artists don't usually fall into performing R&B music. You usually have Yumochida doing that and not many more people. This time around you have Jin Ogasawara, and Jin Ogasawara that is basically tailored to perform rock music with a massive screamo skill and really robust screams and shouts. Is actually performing in a really smooth and buttery way, which is awesome, unexpected, and surprisingly pleasing. So I found myself reviewing the 3 songs and thinking, yeah, this is the best one, the next one is not going to top it, and the next one tops it, and the next one tops it. So I'm pretty surprised and pleased to know that once again Jin Ogasawara is writing his own lyrics, which is something that I would love to hear more and see more of. I do hope that he can actually have more input in his music, because so far the things that he has written lyrics to, or the songs that he has written lyrics to, are his best songs. So that already says something about his performances. He feels more comfortable when he is singing his own words. That's only natural, because it is his feelings and he knows how to express those. He doesn't need any indications or notes how to perform something, because he knows already what he wants to do with that, and he can be more free in the way he delivers that, because it was himself writing those. And then you have a sound that is not really common. It was back in the day, but now it's not really common. That is R&B and mixed with a loungy, almost jazzy, lo-fi sound. It fits Jin Ogasawara pretty well because he does have a really unique raspiness in his voice. There's a unique color to his shouting that works really well with whichever music genre he experiments with. So far it has been something that stands out pretty easily when he sings, and I really enjoyed his performances in all three songs. So I really used my three suggestions here because Aquarium, Yurei, and Yoga Akeru are really awesome songs, and if you do have the time, please do check it. I am pretty curious now to see how far he can go with his vocal range, how far he can go with his technique, now that he is actually doing R&B riffing, doing head voice, falsetto, high notes here and there, using falsetto and head voice, and adding a really smooth vibrato to his performances. He's really doing a little bit of everything, and not so much the screamo that fans know him for because of gyroaxia, which is really cool. He's really distancing himself from gyroaxia so that people don't think that because he does something with the band, he's actually doing that as a solo artist and it's only to attract attention. He's actually showing that I'm my own person, so the music that I create is completely different from that I perform for 2D music projects. That's awesome. That's a really good statement to make, so that you can have the freedom to compose and perform the music that you like and not be tied to a music genre forever because you want fans to continue to support you. So showcasing that versatility is something that I love to see, and being bold at that is also another thing that I love. And Jin Ogasawara is really doing a really good job right now. I'm looking forward to the next two singles, and I do hope that we can down the line listen to a full-length album by the year, by the end of the year at least, or a mini album, because he's really on a good spell. And if he continues this spell and it carries over to an album, I could easily tell you that that album would be right there as one of the best of the year, because these three songs are already picked as the best, some of the best of the year for me. So those are going to be in the final list that I reveal in December. Those are 3 spoilers you get. I'm not going to give you any more spoilers. And that's all from me and my suggestions in the monthly choice corner. Now let's check your suggestions. We have one suggestion this month, and it is by Naz, and I love this. I am 2 months late on this, but this month I fell in love with Erosion with You from Carnelian Blood, Volume 3, Nate. The main reason is because of the song Still. I love when people find this song because it is awesome. It drew me in because I am a sucker for ballads, but Ryota Suzuki's strong vocals are the main reason I continue to keep this song on repeat. His voice seems perfect for ballads, and his vocal control is amazing. I'm glad that this song gets to highlight his range, especially his charming falsetto. It definitely wooed me over, especially when communicating such a loving message. With Ryota gaining more roles and growing in popularity, I hope people get to hear this from him. Never Let You Go is also a great song, and it is very catchy. I love how all 5 vocals get their time to shine, yet work so well together. You're not really late, so welcome to the party. This is a really awesome CD. Out of all CDs in the Erosion with You from Carnelian Blood CD series, this is the one that is more blunt in the way love is showcased. It's not that tragic as all other songs by the other 4 members in the group have. So that's a really good point to start out. It's not that dramatic, it's not that tragic, it is pure love in there. And the way Ryota Suzuki performs, in a way, when I was first listening to his performance, and this may sound like a weird comparison, he was sounding to me like Kazuki Kato. You may know of him as one of the vocals in Thrive. He's also a professional musical singer with a massive vocal range in the baritone range mainly. He's really an awesome singer, and I see some shades of that in Ryota Suzuki's performances. He has that mellow twist to the baritone range, which I love, so he's a really soft, gentle baritone. He actually can dabble in a more aggressive style of songs, and he has done that previously with Erosion, but although he's done that previously with Erosion, he barely gets any airtime or spotlight time within those songs, because we're talking about 5 vocals, and per song there is one vocal that sings more than the others because they are the center for that song. You rarely get to listen to Ryota Suzuki on the spotlights. This was a really good time to put him on as a solo for the very first time. Mind you, this is the very first time he performed a solo song or solo character song, and it is awesome, really. I found myself listening to this song on repeat just like you because of how gentle his performance is. His voice seems perfect for ballads, yes, because he is really a smooth baritone, and I do like that about him. He does have an edge, and I have been seeing a lot of projects usually picking him to give voice to foreigners that usually have a rougher voice, and I believe he's starting to be typecasted as those, so it is good to see that he actually can do something a little bit different with Reject's work, and especially here with Erosion in the Cornelian Blood franchise. So it is good to find that he actually can do something a bit different from all the aggressive stuff he is doing in other projects, just because he does have an image attached to himself of being rough and tough because he's muscular and all that stuff. And then Never Let You Go is a really good group effort. It's not often that you find Erosion so in sync, and in that song they are. That chorus is really powerful with the unison, which is a technique I do not like, but it works pretty well with the group because they sound clear at all times. You can pick and choose anyone apart within that performance in the chorus, and you can easily spot each of the 5 vocals. There's no issue there. The mixing is really well done, so that song is really awesome. So thank you very much for your comment, Naz. That's a fantastic CD. I recommended it, I believe, 2 months ago. It is really good, and I recommend it once again with your suggestion, because that's one of the best performances of the year so far, and a really beautiful ballad that is not cheesy. It is the right amount of emotional and the right amount of intense in the rock genre. It is a power ballad that is really sweet at its core. It is overflowing with love, and it really has a fantastic performance by Ryota Suzuki on top. So thank you very much for your comment, Naz. This episode is sponsored by all the Hand That Feeds HQ's patrons on Patreon. A big thank you for the support. And now we're in the Music in the Horizon corner. And this is going to be a long talk. I will try to make it short, because May is going to be a big month. And starting from May, every month sounds like it will be a big one. So, I do have my the CDs that I'm going to be pretty much all over when they drop include Shinichi Toki's Good 4. And that's easily because Shinichi Toki is performing a brand of rock music that I love a whole lot. He's revisiting the past and bringing those awesome sounds from the 60s, 70s and 80s in his CD. It is mostly acoustic pop, funk and jazz in there, and I love all of that, and I love Shinichi Toki's voice. So I'm really looking forward to Good 4. And I hope it really matches my expectations, especially because we are going to get rearrangements of previously released songs, which is to say, finally we're going to get his debut single to sound good, which is awesome. That song had so much potential and it failed to match that and now there's a possibility for it to sound really good. I'm looking forward to those rearrangements as well as the new songs and see what Shinichi Toki can pull off. So far, have been pretty much impressed with his performances. I love his singing tone and I love his energy. He's a singer that always has a lot of passion and love in his performances, even if the lyrics are not related to that, but he shows that he loves to sing, and I love to hear that in his performances. So I'm really, really looking forward to his album, Good For. Then we have Sir Vanity's Ray. It is indeed going to drop in May, and I'm looking forward to it for the reasons I've already talked in the monthly choice corner, but I'll add a couple of notes on top. So I'm looking forward to see and hear what Yuichiro Umehara and Yoshiki Nakajima can write this time around. I'm not sure if they are going to add more solo tracks to this CD, or if all songs or all new songs are going to be band songs. So I'm pretty curious to see the dynamic here, if there are going to be solo songs or aside from the ones that were already released, if there are going to be any new solo songs or if we're going to get all band songs. I would prefer all band songs because the band has been flowing pretty well, and the solo songs detract a little bit from the fact that this is a band indeed, and it starts sounding more like a solo project. But I'm looking really forward to Sir Vanity CD. One of my favorite composers is their composer, it's Satoru Kuwabara, and I really enjoyed the genius of Yoshiki Nakajima as a singer-songwriter. He's more of a singer-lyricist, so not necessarily a songwriter, he doesn't write songs, but he has a really nice musical sense that helps him usually bring the best out of every song he performs. Yuichiro Umehara has been a really good surprise in the last couple of years, and he's really shown that he's comfortable performing as a member of Sir Vanity. I would love to actually see footage of their first live that is going to take place in May as well, to see how both will work on stage playing the guitar. I'm really curious to see that. Then we have Idolish 7's Mellow Blue. My curiosity for this single is more because I haven't played the game until the point this song was released. So I am now, and people can already spoil me a bit, I am already in the 5th story chapter or story season, so there's no problem right now for me. I already know what happened to Zul, I'm not going to spoil that. And I already know what is happening with some of the members of Idolish 7, and I already know how Trigger are doing in their musical world. So I don't have many spoilers to avoid at the moment, but I do have part of the 5th season of story left to check. Mellow Blue is a song that I do not know how it will sound, that's why I am curious about it. I'm not going to add more because I haven't listened to any preview. Given that it is Idolish 7, it is going to be pop music, perhaps in the EDM genre, I do not know, but given that Opus was so good, I hope it goes in the same lines of everything is up to us. I do not know if that's the style in this song, please do not spoil me that, I do not want that to be spoiled, but do talk with me when this song is released and we'll see if that actually happened. And lastly, I have to talk about Ryodo's pole position because I love the Dear Vocalist franchise. This is, if you had to tell me to choose only one franchise out of the various that I love of 2D music, the one that I would save and I would make sure there would be no shortage of music would be Dear Vocalist. That's the franchise that hooked me to 2D music when I was in the time that I was putting into equation stopping covering 2D music. So Dear Vocalist arrived at a really good time and hooked me in, and the rock sound is really awesome. Another composer that I love is there, it's Hon. And Ryodo is not really my favorite in terms of sound. He usually has a pop rock sound that is really generic at best, but what makes it really interesting at times is when he dives into a different music genre. One thing that is really interesting, and it is common across all seasons of CDs in the Dear Vocalist franchise, is that Ron, as a composer, usually has a pattern within each CD. There were collections that had a rock song and a jazz song, others that had a rock song and an electronica song, and others that had a rock song and an acoustic one, which was the previously released Raving Beat CDs. Those had one of the songs being rock, the other being an acoustic pop rock tune. Usually the song that was confessional was the acoustic one. And this time around I'm curious to see which is the dynamic within the two songs, given that the previous release had 3 new songs. This time around we're back to the normal, which is 2 new songs, and the rest is a drama CD with a dummy head mic, and a new feature, which is a second CD that has a band drama CD. But I'm really curious to see which is the dynamic between the first and the second song, and which music genres are going to repeat themselves throughout the franchise's releases, which are going to be all released up until August. So I'm really curious about Ryodo's pole position, and of course that's not only because Ron is the composer, but also because I love Toshiki Masuda as a singer. And that's all from me about my picks for music in the Horizon. And it's time to check your suggestions or your most anticipated releases. We have one here, and it is also a pretty big one in May. It is Seiyuu by Argonavis. So Naz says Seiyuu by Argonavis is definitely that one, or the one I am most looking forward to right now, because I am interested in what they do musically in this new era and how they've progressed. It has also been quite a while since their first album. It would also be nice to hear a cohesive album after getting the weekly digital releases. So I'm not following strictly closely the Argonavis or the From Argonavis franchise, but I do know something about it. Jarawaxia signed to Universal Music Japan, and Argonavis is still Bushiroad music. So there's a little bit of limitation in there in terms of the music. I would have loved for Argonavis to actually leave that music label and join one that would actually appreciate them. So I find this weird to not be any announcement regarding them changing music labels. But still, it's Argonavis, so you can expect a warm brand of pop rock sound. It's not usually my thing, which is a big reason why I haven't reviewed much of Argonavis' repertoire. But I do feel you. This is a CD that I have seen is highly anticipated. It is a really long time since the first CD, indeed, 1 year, 2 years, and the band has changed a lot since then. I do believe that the anime and then the stage play ended up changing a little bit the dynamic in the franchise, and you may get something really different for this CD, although do have that into attention that some previously released songs are going to be in this CD with no rearrangements. So it will be interesting to see how the franchise can build a CD around previously released songs that are in a different tone. Not necessarily a tone that is different from what the band has done before, but in a different tone in terms of their growth at the moment. So it will be interesting. I do believe many people will be curious to check that album. Thank you very much for your comment, Naz, and I hope that your expectations are more than met or well met in May with Argonavis' Seiyuu. And that's all for this Music in the Horizon corner. And it's time for the final corner, Ask Vanessa. So let's check your questions. And this time around we have 2 questions. And the first one is by Tori. What's your opinion or hopes for Makoto Furukawa's upcoming single for Requiem of the Rose King, based on the snippet we got from the trailer? Tori, I have an unfortunate news for you. I do not listen to previews of the CDs because those end up influencing my expectations for when it is basically time for me to review the CD. I will already be expecting that part to appear, and if the cut in that preview is not well made, I will be going into that song with a really weird impression, and that song will not be getting any full marks from me if I have that weird expectation to begin with. So I haven't checked the previews, so I do not know what to expect in that single. I'm sorry, I usually do not listen to previews of the CDs I'm going to review. Is a CD that I'm pretty excited about. So while I'm not going to basically make a comment on the previews because I haven't checked those, and I will not be checking those until the CD drops. I like to be surprised when I listen to the music, so every time you read a review of mine on the website, I didn't listen to any previews prior to reviewing the music. So if I spend 1 year without basically reviewing a CD, I haven't listened to anything about that CD in that year. That's usually how I roll, and that's maddening in a way because I want to listen to the CD, but then I can't listen to the CD because I want to write my first impressions, those natural first impressions when listening to a CD, and you can't replicate that when you have already listened to the songs prior to reviewing those. So I try to make it sure that I do not listen to any previews when I'm going to review music. But still, Ibara Ribun Kyoku is a song that or basically a single that I'm looking forward to, and pretty much that I'm looking forward to the most. Unless something really impressive drops in June, that's really the CD that I'm looking forward to the most. And I like the direction that Makoto Furukawa is taking, although I would love for him to continue performing the jazz music. And right now, because you have listened to the previews, you may be saying, but the song is jazz! Perhaps it is. Or the song it isn't jazz, and perhaps it is different. But I don't know that. But I would love to hear him return to jazz music. But knowing how Requiem of the Rose King is a dramatic anime series, I do find it that it's going to be like the previously released single, which is quite dramatic. But I'm looking forward to the B-side tracks. Once again, those will be different between versions, and this time around I'm going to review both versions, so both B-sides will be reviewed. Do not despair there. Last time I thought that I would be going the safe route if I was going to choose Makoto Furukawa's self-penned song, but this time around I believe he has not written the lyrics to any of the songs, so I'm going to actually pick both and review those. I'm looking forward to it. I do want to see more of that elegance, more of that mature vibe, and at the same time a really tasteful take on love, lust, drama, and high stakes that it is associated with Requiem of the Rose King, and that Makoto Furukawa captured really well in Ware Barani Isu. So I'm really looking forward to it. Apologies because I haven't listened to the previews. I do not listen to previews. But I do hope that you are actually really excited for this single and end up supporting Makoto Furukawa in the best way you can when that time comes to release Ibara Rimbun Kyoku. So thank you very much for your commentary. And now we have a comment by Maki, and this one is the last question/comment. Maki says, I'd like to know what you think of Dear Vocalist finally adding band members to each band and the seiyuu assigned to them. Thank you. So far we have had, and well, like I said before, I'm a massive fan of Dear Vocalist. This is a franchise that I would save no matter what. I would maybe waver a bit if someone asked me if I had to save Dear Vocalist, Idolish 7 or Skipro, but my heart is with Dear Vocalist. So, Dear Vocalist is a really cool franchise. It's all about rock music, it's all about character development. I love the franchise to bits, and they are now starting its 7th CD series. This is a franchise that started in 2015 when not many people were starting 2D music franchises in the rock genre, and many 2D music franchises that started in the rock genre were failing. So it was nice to see that Dear Vocalist actually survived the test of time and was able to, through sheer quality alone, stand out, because at that time they casted the voice actors for the project. Those voice actors weren't even popular, so it was really lucky of the franchise to, by talent alone and a really good character development, ending up basically lasting this long, and I would love for them to last longer. And now they are starting the new CD series, Unlimited, and this one adds band members to all bands. So we had at the moment we knew that there were bands in which each vocal was a part of. Ryodo's Lumière, Joshua's Brave Child, Judah's Kagaribi, Tsuyu's Jet Red Fury, Momochi's Veronica, A-Dash's NSFW. But still, we knew that there were bands, and they mentioned the bands in the drama CDs in which there is the whole cast, and they mentioned the bands in their solo drama CDs, the ones that have dummy head mic, in which you, the listener, are also an active party in the story. And those CDs are the most impressive part of this whole franchise, I should say, because you follow the story and it is evolving from CD to CD. It doesn't necessarily start a new story with each CD, it carries over, which is pretty good, and it's something that makes people interested and excited for the next CD, and it starts to create a certain cult around these franchise. This time around we have new band members. So Ryodo does have a really interesting lineup for his band Lumière, and we have Takuya Shiro, Yuto Uemura, Shunsuke Takeuchi. I'm not surprised with this lineup, especially because Reject loves low voices, and Shunsuke Takeuchi really fits the bill for the type of character he's playing. He's playing the drummer, Thomas. I believe the casting is not that bad. I believe it's actually fitting for that band, so no issues there. I haven't listened to the radio video that they made on Dear Vocalist's website, so I need to check that. But from what I heard, the dynamic within the band is pretty interesting, with Ryodo barely saying anything. Then we have the most recent announcement, which is the members of Brave Child, which is Joshua's band, voiced by Nobunaga Shimazaki. And the band brought in some interesting additions. Takuma Nagatsuka. Then we have Chiaki Kobayashi voicing a character that would usually be my style of character. I don't know how he will sound if we are going to listen to a Kobayashi that is on a lower range or if he's on a higher. Once again, I haven't watched the video with the radio show, the brief radio show with Brave Child. And then we have Tatsuya Kakihara, which I believe is the biggest surprise in here. I was not expecting Tatsuya Kakihara to be back in a Reject project after Bad Medicine, I believe. I want to see the dynamic between the members. I'm pretty curious about it. Once again, one of the things that I felt was exciting about these was that we get to finally know who are the members that the vocalists mention so many times. And one of those curious things for me is, and because I am anticipating this a lot, is Judah and his guitarist, because Kagaribi is a two-man band, so it is the vocal and the guitarist, there's no one else. So it's going to be a really tight drama CD with basically a lot of shouting, a lot of fighting, and a lot of screaming. And it is Soma Saito as Judah, and I hopefully want it to be either Yoshiki Nakajima or Shoya Chiba as the guitarist, but I'm not sure they will be available for that work. And that would be awesome because both are really close to Soma Saito, and the dynamic would be pretty awesome to actually have in there. I believe Reject would be more inclined to bring in Yoshiki Nakajima because usually, or at least as of late, 2D music projects have been pairing Soma Saito and Yoshiki Nakajima pretty frequently, more so than bringing in Shoya Chiba, but Shoya Chiba is there available. I believe so. I would love to see him being the Kuso Guitaristo, the guitarist that he always complains about. So that's something that I look pretty much forward to, and I believe we will get an announcement really close to June about who will be voicing the guitarist. I'm pretty curious about the rest of the lineups, especially for Veronica and NSFW, because those are the bands that have the weirdest and most extreme vocals, either personality-wise or sound-wise. Momochi is really fake in personality-wise, so I want to know how his band reacts to him and if the band is actually aware of that gap that Momochi has, although Momochi is really confident that he can fool everyone. So I'm pretty curious to see that. And NSFW, I'm pretty curious to see how the rest of the members are in terms of energy, if they are the complete opposite to A-Dash, because A-Dash is a bundle of energy. It would be pretty funny to find that the rest of the band, although they are performing EDM music, they are all pretty mellow and quiet. It would be pretty hilarious. So I'm curious to see and hear what Reject pulls off in the next lineups. And in a way, I feel like the Dear Vocalist franchise is either trying to expand the world building or trying to set a way to create a new CD series, but with all band members. I'm not sure, but it is a possibility knowing Reject. So there may be down the line drama CDs for each of the members of each band, not just the vocalists. I don't know, that's not right. I know that it will not be as good, at least I believe, than the core 6 vocals. But still, I believe that Reject is at least thinking about it, because Iwasaki never brings such a big cast, and especially with rising stars and veterans, to a project that he's not thinking about expanding. So let's see what happens here. So far I believe it is only to add more quality to the story, more depth to the stories of each vocalist, and then we'll see what happens. I've already pre-ordered the CD by Judah, and the other ones I will be getting a bit later. So I'm looking forward to these, and I do hope that you are also looking forward to the lineups in each band. I don't know if you are actually going to watch this episode. I do hope that you are going to watch this episode, Maki. But if you actually watch this episode, do let me know which of the bands or the band members are you most excited about and why, because we all love different bands. I'm more of a Kagaribi fan and mildly NSFW fan, so I would be pretty curious to see if you enjoyed the lineup so far and who would be your dream lineups for all other groups that are left unveiling. And this is right now the end of this episode. Thank you very much for participating. So, this is the end of another episode of Monthly Review. April is already behind our backs, we're welcoming May, and there are pretty interesting things ahead of us. Summer is almost here, so it is pretty good in terms of the music we are going to get, especially if you like summery music. It is also that time in which I wish, or I hope, Kotaro Nishiyama releases new music, because his city pop sound fits really well with summer. We still have yet to listen to or to get news about Mamoru Miyano's new album, there is yet to be announced a release date, so we do not know when that album is going to drop. I'm going to bet August or September, but still, there's a lot to be released. Soma Saito has announced, hinted that he's going to release new music until the end of the year, so there's also that to look forward to. I would also love to listen to more by Makoto Furukawa, besides Ibara Rimbun Kyoku, and as well Toshiki Masuda, besides Midnight Dancer that was already released. I would love to hear more from them, perhaps even Shugo Nakamura. So I'm looking forward to the possible announcements that may come in the next couple of months, and I'm still looking forward to a solo debut that is yet to be announced. As you may have noticed, there hasn't been a solo debut so far, announced at least in 2022. There was one, Tomohito Takatsuka, but he was announced as a solo debut in 2021 and only made his debut in 2022. There is yet to be a solo debut announcement in 2022. I continue to say it should be Shoya Chiba or Yuya Hirose, but we don't know how the industry is working right now or what those seiyuu want to do, so we'll have to wait and see. I would love to have such news to talk about in the next episode, but we don't know. So, thank you very much for watching this episode up until this point, and I hope you are looking forward to the music in next month and enjoyed the music in this month. If you haven't listened to any of the CDs I mentioned in this episode, please do check the links below, because I have direct links to either the news or the reviews I've made about those CDs, so that you can be up to speed to what I am talking about. And of course, as always, do leave comments below, because I do read your comments and interact with you there, so do not worry, I will be reading what you're writing, and I love to hang out with you in the comments. So that's all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode in late May. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.